Hi everyone, happy week. I just thought today we would talk about some racing. So the Spanish GP has been this weekend. Some interesting results. Not at the front, unfortunately. And I just thought we'd talk about that race, Formula One in general, from Formula E, and just the state of racing and what I think about how the motorsports compare to each other and where you'd find enjoyment in each one. I think that'd just be fun to talk about. So, the Spanish Grand Prix, I don't know, they sort of tease different strategies, different weathers. You know, they said, George Russell gave us a hint of maybe some rain on turn 5, which turned out to be his own sweat, which was good of him. I heard a thing today from P1 that was like, maybe is he trying to get into other teams' heads? I don't know about that. It's just he just had a mare there, didn't he? But it was fun. I mean, the race shaped up to be lots of different strategies. Ferrari doing Ferrari things, pitting Leclerc super early on with hard tyres, even before some of the soft runners have even come in. Ridiculous. You got to wait that out. But all in all, it was Max domination, wasn't it? It was Red Bull domination. You know, that car is just insane, and Max is a machine as well. So I don't know who can really challenge him. We thought maybe Perez would. They were sort of very close on points. Then Perez had that shocking Monaco. Max picked up 4 points, obviously, and then coming to Spain, turn 1 was the only time anyone had any chance, and away he went and finished 23 seconds, I think, was clear of anyone else. I saw a video on Twitter that was just from a fan's perspective how long that actually is, and it feels like an age. It feels like you're just waiting there for like 5 minutes, and then here comes Lewis rounding out that sort of corner that they were on. It's just ridiculous. So I don't see anyone taking the title from Max anytime soon. He's in front by how many points? I don't know, but it's got to be quite a few. And then I guess it's just who comes second, third, fourth, fifth, and what teams rise to the crowd. I think it could be really interesting with Mercedes' new side pods. Can they actually challenge for potentially second place in the constructors? Aston Martin didn't have a particularly good running, considering how they started the year. Consistently, maybe second after the Red Bulls. Can they pick that back up? Are Ferrari going to do anything? I mean, Leclerc, I don't know what was going on with his car. You would have thought that he'd absolutely rocket up to the front like he had one of those big bullet things from Mario Kart, but he just didn't make that far, right? He didn't make it that far in to the field. I think it's some bad strategy calls. That's just Ferrari doing Ferrari things, and I could see him wanting to move away. And I don't know what his contract is, to be fair, but he might want to sort of think about moving away very soon. It would be really weird to see Leclerc on a different team, in a different get-up. So Max dominates. Lando qualified P3. We all thought, yeah, this is it. And Piastri was in Q3 as well, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be good. But he collides with Hamilton, I think, on the very start of the race and just falls down the order, needs a new front wing, and that's his race over. With this, he thought he just got swallowed up by everyone else's strategy and ends up near the back. I mean, it was heartbreaking. My friend's a McLaren fan, and I'm sure she was pretty annoyed by that. But what can you do? I guess he should have just maybe thought, let's take the points here. Let's see where we can come. I mean, realistically, with sort of Perez out of position and the Stroll coming in. Stroll had a really good quali, out qualies Alonso for maybe I think the first time this season. They showed that stat I saw on Twitter of the track dominance. How unnecessary was that? The track dominance statistic where it showed that Alonso just had every it was small sectors, it wasn't even big sectors, like every small sector of the track just dominated in terms of time. But still, that qualifies Alonso. I know Alonso had that mistake in quali that I think ruined his 4, but that's his fault. And yeah, I guess that was that. What's strange is that I feel like we haven't had a safety car in about 3 years. I can't remember when the last one was. I mean, I know Imola was cancelled, but I don't think there was one in Monaco. There was clean racing everywhere, no retirements, and I was just, I'd be thinking, like, am I one of those fans that relies on retirements and crashes and safety cars to find enjoyment in the sport? I don't think so. I think I really enjoy racing, and I really enjoy the strategy of it, which is something I'm going to talk about later when it comes to Formula E. But I really enjoy the strategy and tyre degradation and management of tyres, and that's a lot. I like a lot of the underrated things that maybe some of the people might not pick up on. I quite like the intricacies of stuff and how it works, but I can't deny there is huge excitement in a safety car backing up the pack, essentially having a second restart, Lord forbid even a red flag restart, a standing restart. But I just couldn't help think about how it might be the only way in that race of having any sort of, catch up to Max, excluding some rain, which was teased but never came. I feel like that was maybe Sky's way of sort of putting a bit of jeopardy in it. Wouldn't it be so funny if they'd have pitted Russell on some inters or something, just for it to be sweat on his visor? But yeah, I feel like we do need a sort of action-packed race. Not that I didn't enjoy it, like I said. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to weigh out. But I definitely enjoy the strategy, but sometimes you just want a bit of excitement, like NASCAR. I watched NASCAR a little bit in summer last year, and I feel like for me that's a bit too much. Like over and over again, it's just restart, yellow flags, regime racing can take ages. But yeah, another thing I wanted to touch on is the strategy game for this race, which you sometimes see those races where teams use the same strategies, but this one we had the varied strategies. We had some starting on mediums, we had some on softs, we had Leclerc on hards, and we were thinking, what's going to happen with strategy and how's that going to sort of pan out? And it was pretty good, right? So it was a good strategic race. One of the notes I've written down here is do I prefer overtaking using strategy or overtaking on track? And I think the obvious answer for me is overtaking on track. We want to see those wheel-to-wheel battles. We want to see those, risky overtakes and the, Verstappen dive down the inside. We want to see this sort of Alonso overtaking Bahrain. That was the slickest overtake I've ever seen around onto that straight. That's what I want to see. But I do find big value in, will they undertake? How will the pit stop happen? Are they going to try and, go over? They're going to try and go under? Like it's part of that sport. And I think that is really good. And I think it works well for the sport, the sort of jeopardy and how long it goes. And I think races with 2 stops or more are way better in terms of that strategy call, because I think there's more to go right and there's more to go wrong. It creates a bit more jeopardy and a bit more emphasis on pitting well and the strategy from the teams in the pit wall and what data they have and how they use that data. I think it can be really, really fun to watch. So what I've been starting to do recently is think about Monaco and the value of Monaco, and if I think it's worth being on the F1 calendar. And I think the answer I have is definitely yes. I think the excitement we had in that Saturday qualification at Monaco, it was like absolutely dwarfed, I think, the value of the race. But I think you're allowed one weekend on the calendar where maybe that you have a higher emphasis on the qualification and the qualifying rather than the race. I don't know. I just find it an interesting dynamic. The track itself is iconic. The amount of times that I've lost a front wing on the F1 game is mammoth. I feel like it's such a technical challenge for drivers, and if they're not up to that challenge, then how does that pan out for the rest of the group? I think it was very interesting. We got some spots of rain, and we had those people binning it into the runoff areas, and Russell rejoining the track into Perez, and I think it was quite good. And I think it was Magnussen, right? Magnussen tried to get a few places in. He'd give it his best shot. I think this year's Monaco was pretty good, but nothing compared to the qualifying. The qualifying was epic. The way Max just took that lap on the last lap of the day, iconic. He absolutely smashed that, and reaped his rewards. But I was thinking about what got me onto here is the Formula E race in Monaco. I think I saw a stat which was like the Formula E race in Monaco had 116, I think, overtakes. Definitely over 100. I'm thinking, I don't know how many there was in the F1 race. It can't be more than 10 on track. And why is that? Well, the cars are smaller and they have less aero performance. Right, so there's, in terms of cornering, you have to brake a lot later. And on straights, there's a lot more braking room. There's a lot more distance from a braking point, and therefore people can send it on the inside a lot more easily, which makes tracks like Monaco really fun. I rewatched the Monaco E-Prix, and I thought it was really good. I thought the difference between F1 was night and day, which got me looking into Formula E a bit more. I watched it a bit last season, and I really enjoyed it. There was a good lead battle. I can't remember who. I think Mitch Evans was at the front, and Stoffel Van Dorn won it. I can't remember who else. I think it was there. I think it might have been a DS to Cheetah. I can't remember, but it was pretty good. It was good, and I enjoy how they take those electric cars and like the eco value of Formula E. I think that's great. I think it's definitely the way the sport is evolving. Racing is evolving into this, and I think it's got a future. I don't know about its future. I'm a bit concerned. I think I'm not sure it gets the viewers that they want. I'm not sure the production value. I don't know. At least on Channel 4 for me is not incredible. A little weird thing, but I don't like the new logo at all. The app looks horrible. I don't like that big weird. Looks like someone's just drawn an E on the. I don't like that. I want the old logo was better. I thought it was more clear. How's it going? And yeah, I enjoyed watching and rewatching some of the E-Prix Jakarta this week. I watched the Saturday one live. The thing I can't go over with Formula E though is the tracks. Some of them are so dull, like excluding things like Monaco, which is obviously iconic. Some of the tracks just they're built in like car parks, and it's just like little bits of tarmac, and then the street races with the barriers. I just think that must be some way of making them a bit more, iconic, or have some sort of landmarks involved. I don't know. I think that might be maybe just ignorant with some of the tracks, but the London track I think is near the O2, I believe, the arena, and it's relatively near there, I think, and I think it's just on some sort of docks, and I just can't help but think could Formula E be better if they had better tracks? I think maybe. I'd love to go, actually. I'd love to go and see the E-Prix. I don't think I'll be able to get to this one, unfortunately. but I'd love to go at some point. Another thing I have with Formula E, I think it's classed with the overtakes, but there's a portion of a peloton, a pack mentality where nobody wants to lead, and they just want to conserve battery because the leader is punching that hole through the air and making sure so that everyone else behind sort of stays in that drag lost zone, and they can follow a lot more easily when battery saving. And there's lots of overtakes behind the leader, but sometimes a change for the lead is a little bit sparse, but sometimes it's really good. It just depends. I like the strategy in Formula E, but it's not as much as Formula 1. I like the attack mode. I think that's a really cool innovation there. They can use a certain amount of time for extra, I think it's 50 watts extra battery that they can take. I like that a lot, in the way that you have to go around a certain portion of the track, which will lose you time or maybe lose your position, and see if you can gain that back on track. I think that makes for good racing, good overtakes. I like that teams don't know what battery power that other teams have around them, and only when it's put on the actual screen, the television, that they know how much battery they have compared to the competitors around them. I think that's really cool. And overall, I think Formula E is just a good product. I think it's branded a bit bad, and I think the tracks can be a bit lackluster. I think it's good quality entertainment. People don't like it as well because it's quite short. I think some of the races are like 45 minutes to an hour. I personally like that. I like short, snappy, overtake-filled battles, and sometimes that fits into my schedule better than a potential 3-hour, maybe with a red flag or a safety car race from F1. And I actually enjoy that, and I find that to be I find it to fit well into my schedule, and I like it. Sometimes, it's on a Saturday morning, I can just wake up with a cup of coffee and watch the Formula E, sometimes at different times. I love that about both sports, Formula 1 and Formula E, and how they're worldwide, and you get different time zones, and it keeps it a bit fresh, because I never know what I'm going to be doing on the weekend and where that race will fit in. The more variety that is, the better chance to be able to catch some of it or most of it. So, state of racing. There's a lot of, I guess Formula 1 in general. I'm going to talk about Formula 1 here, I guess. The state of Formula 1, the state of racing in Formula 1. At the minute, we have this incredibly dominant team, Red Bull, this incredibly dominant engineer and aerodynamicist, Adrian Newey, and just the right people in the right places. And it's like, how do you work around that? Because FIA, I guess F1 have to find a way of closing that gap. I mean, if they thought they did with the new regulations and how cars can follow each other a bit more, but I don't know how much that's working. And we've got a few years now until the next regulation. I think it's 2026 is the new regulations. So we've got a little bit of time before there is some change, big changes. You look at the floor design of the Red Bull from that shot underneath, and you look at the design of the Williams, and they're absolutely night and day. The Williams just looks like maybe a Lego car underneath, and the Red Bull just looks like an intergalactic spaceship. The difference is clear, and that comes from design and engineer work and testing. And I'm not sure how you close that gap. And some people might say, I'm not sure you need to. And, should we introduce some sort of spec aspect of it and spec series? I don't think that is the way at all. I think some of the part of the enjoyment for me is knowing that there are teams buying the cars, making the cars as good as they possibly can be. And that's half of the battle. Well, I don't know what percentage of the battle it is. The driver obviously makes a massive percentage. That's why we see people like Verstappen constantly on top of Perez and making the most out of their machine. But there's also a massive percentage in terms of making the car. Stick Max in a Williams. Is he going to be P1? Probably not. Is he going to be in the points? Maybe, But who knows how far a really good driver can take a really not bad, a really sort of underperforming car, underperforming team. how much can a driver take it? And I don't know the answers to this question. I don't know how to do this. I guess that's the FIA's sort of problem to deal with. But we just want to see. I just want to see, and I think Formula One is better when there's racing for the lead. However, that being said, the race for the sort of second, third, fourth teams at the minute is spicy, right? So we've got Aston Martin, who were the sort of at the start of the year, they're really sort of locked on second team. We've got Mercedes, who with the new side pod design, they clearly have pace. They clearly have a good engine. Are now looking at maybe the second team, above Aston Martin, because it was quite frankly embarrassing for them when Aston Martin, a customer team, was beating them. And then we've got, will Ferrari do any better than they are already? Will they be able to get into the sort of second, third tier there? And what about Alpine? Alpine are no scrubs. I don't think they're on the Ferrari or Aston Martin or Mercedes level, but they can clearly take points off those top teams, and we'll see what happens with them. So, sorry that was a bit of a ramble. Thank you for watching. If you want sort of more videos like this on topics that I find interesting, or things that you might request that I could get into and find interesting, then please consider subscribing and liking the video and sharing. But for now, I hope you enjoyed, and have a lovely rest of your day.